All right. All right. Today I'm joined by Cody Clark of Custom Homes, Clark Custom Homes, a builder serving Northeast Dallas and rural Northeast Texas with a focus on rural luxury, craftsmanship, honesty, and personalized service. Clark Custom Homes specialize in building custom homes and spaces that reflect each family's lifestyle and vision with a process centered on clear communication, expert guidance, and hands-on support from start to finish. I'm excited to talk to Cody today about what it really takes to scale a custom home business, including systems, operations, hiring, software, marketing, sales, and reputation. And Cody and I actually hop on the phone. I think it was last week, and we ended up having about an hour and a half conversation, just kind of going back and forth. And we said, well, we should probably hop on a call and record this because I'm sure other builders would be able to find some value in that. So thank you, Cody, for joining today.
Yeah, of course. Thanks for having me.
So Cody, tell us a little bit about your history, your background, and how you became one of the pioneers in your space for custom home building.
Yeah, so I spent the majority of my previous life as a firefighter paramedic. Started this business on the side, just totally meant for it to be like 1 to 2 homes a year, building for friends and family. The business just kind of naturally grew, throughout the years, and it's been a real pleasure. It's been a real experience. I can tell you that. So of course I built my house, and that's kind of where it started, if you will. And I got a job working as a project manager, and a guy said, he's like, "We built the house. You want to come do some restoration work?" So I got to learn the insurance side of things, and then while I was working there, buddy's like, "Hey, can you build me a house?" And I said, "Sure." And then another buddy said, "Can you build me a house?" And I said, "Yeah, I'll build you a house." and so here we are. Put it about $10 million in revenue last year, and so we're on track to double that again this year. So I'd say it's going well.
That's awesome. That's such a cool evolution of being in the field and all your friends asking you to start
Yeah,
building homes for them, and you just
yeah,
kind of hit the ground running there.
yeah.
That's awesome. So we'll hop right into it here. I'm curious, when you look at builders who want to grow successfully, what patterns do you notice in how they begin to operate and lead and maybe start to make decisions?
Yeah, so the biggest thing that I see is, okay, so most builders hit a structural ceiling, and it's usually at $4 million. I mean, I have seen guys hit eight in that structural ceiling, but I call it and I'm stealing these words from a great mentor, but he said, "You're a king with 1,000 assistants. You have no processes, you have no systems, you don't even have a business, you just have a really well-paying job." And so
Well
that's typically what I see. I see guys, they hit about $4 million in revenue. They're working 16-hour days, 7 days a week. Their phone never stops ringing. And then that's when guys, they're kind of like, "Hey, something has to change." Usually, like my wife's tired of me working all the time, or so something has to change during that time.
Mhm. And during that change and that point of friction, can you talk about the point where builders realize that their craftsmanship alone is not enough and real systems actually become necessary at that point?
Yeah, yeah. So that's a really good point. So what I like to talk to guys, and especially now that we're starting to do some more mentorship for custom home builders, for guys that want to grow their business, is I say, like, "Listen, do you remember when you learned how to build a house?" And they're like, "Yeah, yeah, I remember." You remember, like, the framing stage and the drywall and the paint and the flooring. And I said, "Okay, listen, business is just like that, but it's a completely different ball game."
Mhm.
And I said, we're gonna what we need to do is we need to take all of your knowledge and then learn how to give it to someone else, right? And so I tell guys, and it kind of depends on where they're at. So really, I love to work with the guys that are, they have maybe it's them and a couple of project managers, or they have a small team.
Mhm.
But let's say they have no one. So if I was to walk into your business tomorrow, I'd say the first person you need to hire is a virtual assistant to do um, all of your social media, all of your marketing stuff, what it's a classic. Everybody gets super busy and then they stop marketing, right? And they're like, oh my
Yeah.
gosh, I have no work. So I say, hey man, hire a VA, $6 an hour. It's the best hire you'll ever make. Second person you need to hire is like a VP of ops.
Mhm.
Hire someone that can do your job. Because the first goal is to make you work like 60 hours instead of 80 hours. Like just
Yeah.
duplicate yourself the very first time. So that's the very first duplication. And then most guys have a bookkeeper, but if they don't have a bookkeeper, I say, listen, we can't grow without financial strategy. Financial
Yep.
strategy is the not the number one pillar of success, but it could arguably be the number one pillar of success. So financial strategy, we got to have a bookkeeper, got to make sure our books are straight.
Mhm.
Our job's profitable. You know what I mean? And so we can dig more into this and understand how we usually I'm trying to figure out like what are you making per job. They're like, I don't know. How many leads will you have next week? I don't know, man. And I'm like, okay, well, hope and prayers on a business strategy, referrals aren't a business strategy. You know
Mhm.
what I mean? So yeah, we really just kind of dig into their numbers, and they're like, I can't. The number one objection, I can't afford to hire anyone.
Mhm. Mhm.
So you absolutely can't afford to hire someone, and I prove it to them. So give
Mhm.
me your numbers, and
Yep.
they're like, yeah, I guess you're right. I guess I can hire someone.
Yeah, and then some, right? You probably,
Yeah.
we usually recommend having at least 6 months pay prior to making that hire, just so you're
Yes.
actually safe, 'cause,
Yes.
of course, we know things can come up. I'm curious if you've ever seen anybody kind of jump the gun with a hire, saying that kind of like, "Oh, I'm gonna get a fast ROI for hiring somebody new," but then they end up not maybe producing the results because they don't have the systems and operations behind that in order for them to be successful. Have you ever experienced anything along those lines?
Yeah. So I don't see that as much. Usually it's guys that are hesitant, but the guys that I do see that jump out there and hire someone, just like you said, you've got to have things in place for them to be successful.
Mhm.
So expectations, I know like it's day one, week one stuff. Like we all know you have to have expectations. Guys are like, well, hired Ant, great guy, and he's gonna come in here and he's gonna do great. All right. Well, I don't know why he sucks so bad because he told me he was awesome. Okay, well, what did you tell him what your expectations were? And they're like, well, no, but I mean he should know.
Yeah.
That's a
You
classic.
got the crystal ball.
Yeah, he knows. You know what I mean? So yeah, I mean when you hire that VP of ops and I say, hey, listen, if you don't do it, that person's job is to start segmenting out and understanding what it is that you do that makes you successful. And
Mhm.
we'll have them write out everything that you do on a piece of paper, every single thing, all the way from eat breakfast to go to bed. From that, I mean, I write that out every single day, and then we'll start figuring out $20 an hour task. And it
Mhm.
actually comes from Dan Martell's book, Buy Back Your Time. But I said, listen, all $20 an hour tasks, we're going to hire somebody to do those jobs.
Yep.
So, but yeah, it's well, it may be more common than I think when guys because they hire and they think this guy's going to solve all my problems, but nobody solves any of your problems without direction. You're just an expensive assistant.
Yep. Well said. Well said. And I'm curious because you mentioned a little bit about marketing. You mentioned about project managers and hiring those kind of key positions and in growing the business. Is there anything as when you start seeing business builders grow, do you see any friction points or breakdowns that end up happening first? I know you kind of alluded to pricing is definitely one lever, but is there anything specific that you found consistently that has shown up as friction or breakdown that usually shows up first, and in what area?
Yeah, so typically, like what I said earlier, is you'll see guys they are okay. So number one reason guys have a business is because they're really good salesmen, but they stop selling to to produce the product.
Mhm.
And that's typically where the breakdown happens. That's why I said hire you VP of ops. Ops is the key word in that sentence. Hire someone to go build the product while you keep selling. You typically sales is the last piece that I tell anybody to give away.
Mhm.
Keep sales. Like if we were to build an upside down pyramid, it would say sales at the very bottom would be the last giveaway.
Got it. So sales would actually be towards the end that you would
Yes,
recommend for them to give up last.
yes. Because I said that's typically why guys have a business.
Mhm.
Is because they're really good. They're really good at selling, but they're typically not super good at the operations side. They need someone that has an operations minded brain. It's a different. So we use a test called Colby, but it's just like basically Colby scores. It's like the DISC assessment. There's a million of them out there. But it's like how you make decisions. But typically we see entrepreneurs, they're high quick start. So they just jump into things, but they have like poor follow through. And basically they're the opposite of a really great project manager. Like the business owner typically sucks as a project manager, which is fine. That's how it's supposed to be. You know, I say the CEO is the only label that doesn't match its actual title. It should be the CVO, the Chief Visionary Officer. So they're the vision, they're the sales. You know what I mean? They're gonna keep the company moving forward. You need someone to come in behind you or under you and actually build the product. But that's typically where I see the number one thing is like, guys, because I always say you can't think and work at the same time. You can't build product and think about selling new product. You can't think and build a company at the same time. Or I mean, you can't work and build a company at the same time.
Yeah. What would you recommend for builders who are listening to this that may have a team already in place and already have some processes and systems in place, but it's a little bit scattered? What would you recommend for meetings and cadence for their teams? Like, how would you approach that area just to make sure that everything is smoothed out as time goes on and that you're actually hitting your goals?
Yeah. So a real high level answer to this is there's a book called Traction. I would tell everybody, hey, read Traction. I can summarize Traction in a few words. Have a level 10 meeting, an L10 meeting. That meeting starts with, hey guys, what are your issues this week? And then you don't talk about, well, framing is an issue. You'll go find a tangent about it. You just say framing, plumbing, you name out every issue on a whiteboard. You sit down, name out every issue, and then you go back and you start assigning those issues to people to get to take care of. This is exactly what we did in our business. We had built a team of 3 people. There was me, my GM, which is now my GM, and a project manager. And it was chaos, you know what I mean? And I was like, okay, listen, all right, we've got 50 issues. Like, I'm not joking. It was 50 of them a day. Like, it was just 50. It was nonsense, but then we started like, okay, listen, all right, Beth, these are your 10 issues. Cody, these are 10 issues. And every week we would come back and we keep like meeting notes and we'd say, okay, which issues got solved? And week over week after week, we had less and less and less issues. So it's what EOS does and what that book Traction does. It helps you take all the chaos and then lay it out and then solve it systematically.
Yeah.
So that's typically where I get guys. That's typically the guys that are really good fit if they want to mentor. They're like, listen, man, I don't know. I've got this house is on fire. I materials delayed over here. This my trim carpenter sucks and my whatever. But it's fine. And they're like, I don't even know where to start. And I'm like, perfect. I do. All right, cool. Let's lay them all out. How many people are on your team? Okay. I mean, if there's 50 issues, everybody's gonna get their little chunk, of issues. Then we're gonna come back next week and we're gonna talk about them. There's been new issues next week, but over time we start to solve them and then write policy around.
Yeah, who's owning what in what specific area? I know in Wickman and Traction, he uses the term rocks. What are your 90-day goals? And we're focusing on those rocks specifically throughout those 90 days. So those are great points. Yeah, and for everybody who's listening, go read Traction.
Phenomenal. You're an EOS guy. I'm an EOS believer. I mean, I'm a believer. It changed my life. It changed my life. It made us profitable. It's an incredible way to structure your business.
No, yeah, I appreciate you sharing that, and especially being focused on those key areas and owning specific processes and troubleshooting some areas. It helps to know exactly what you're looking forward to in those 90 days, because it's very easy to get sidelined. Of course, now we have all this new tech coming out. We have this new AI, and sometimes there's the the shiny object syndrome that's very easy to get into. So I'm curious of how do you think builders should like evaluate using tech, for example, for their business, and what tools have actually made the difference in creating that back end structure, that visibility and control for the business?
Yeah, so tech is a big tech. I've talked to a lot of builders, and there's a tech graveyard over there in the corner somewhere. They're like, man, I've tried Builder Trend, Job Tread, Job Nimbus, Jobber, and they're like, they all suck. I'm like, well, okay, hear me out. They don't all suck, you know what I mean? But someone has to be their baby. You know what I mean? Someone has to implement that. So in EOS, we have implementers. You know what I mean?
Mhm.
So I was like, you have to. The problem with tech is everybody is always like, well, I tried Job Tread for a week and it didn't work. And I was like, what didn't work about it? They're like, I just couldn't figure it out. I'm like, so I went to Builder Trend, and they have a great sales pitch. They do, but it's a lot to digest. And so I tell guys, I was like, hey, pick something. I don't care what you pick. Just stick with it. I mean, I can give you some suggestions of things that I think will work for you long term, that will work better for you long term. Like we use Builder Trend. I've heard a lot of good things about Job Tread.
Mhm.
I know another guy used Jobber. I don't think Jobber is robust enough for a custom home builder,
Mhm.
but I would say pick something that has potential for growth, more growth potential. That makes sense.
Yep. And for the builders that you've worked with, and maybe even yourself regarding Builder Trend, who do you actually have owning that process and plugging in and playing with that software?
Yeah, so early on, that was our office manager. I mean,
Mhm.
it was just oh my gosh. And so Builder Trend is a Builder Trend's a beast.
Yeah,
And
like being
so
in the cockpit.
yeah, it's almost like you have to take Builder Trend and like slice it up into like, hey ops manager, you own the project management portion of Builder Trend. Hey office manager, you own the financial side of Builder Trend. You know what I mean? It's like, and it's like it just you almost have to like split them up, because there's a financial piece that's amazing
Yep.
with job costing, but then there's a humongous portion there on the project management side that really your VP of ops or GM or whoever that is needs to own that piece. And that, then that way you train one project manager and you train another project manager. You know what I mean? So you implement it slowly. That's the biggest problem I see is everybody's like, hey, Cody went to a conference this weekend. He found this new software, and it's great. And here you go. Y'all start using it. You know what I mean? And I walk away. Everybody's like, oh my gosh, the good idea train came by, and
Yeah.
like now we have this other good idea, if you will.
Yeah. Absolutely. And it's no, it's a good point, and I appreciate you sharing for Builder Trend specifically, because that is quite the robust system. And I was talking to somebody who had Builder Trend and they wanted to transition off of it, and building it was less of a nightmare than trying to transition out of it, because all your data is in there, and transferring that data was just an absolute headache. So for anybody who's listening to getting into Builder Trend, use it wisely, and have somebody own it. But if you decide to hop off, just be prepared for that as well.
Yeah, be prepared to spend. I don't know. I'm be lying to you. 8 or 9 or 10 or 12,000. 12. I think it's like 12 grand.
Mhm.
But send someone to Builder Trend school.
Yeah.
It's like a couple $1,000. We flew Angie. She's actually our designer, and I actually flew her to Omaha, and she spent a couple days in Omaha, like 16-hour days, learning Builder Trend. It's amazing. Like it does great, amazing things. Like like it even when you're like sales and estimating portion, like it has a place where you can send out bids and getting your subs to use it. And anyway, but yeah, send someone. Prepare to spend more than just the initial purchase of the software. Send someone, for the love of God, send someone to Builder Trend School to become a super user, if you will.
Yeah. And I know that we talked not only just about Builder Trend and Job Trend, those other kind of operational, the project management softwares, but we also talked about CRMs and kind of the front
Oh yeah.
end of the business as well. And sometimes those can be used as marketing and sales. But I'm just curious, what when it comes to marketing and CRMs, what have you seen actually work to not only guide and attract better fit homeowners, but what tends to create low quality leads and wasted efforts in that area too?
Yeah. So your first question, CRMs, I can only speak to what we use.
Mhm,
I've tried Mailchimp, I've tried Pipedrive, I've tried several of them, but when we finally landed on Go High Level,
mhm,
GHL it's a great CRM. It's a little tricky
mhm,
to set up, but my suggestion would be hire someone on Fiverr,
mhm,
for $200 and have them set it up, because once your automations are done, like it's done and it works. And if you don't have a marketing department, which most guys don't, hire a VA. So hire someone from the Philippines. They're generally GHL experts. Like,
mhm,
they know that crap backwards and forwards and can blow your mind building out automations, and it's amazing. So yeah, GHL, Go High Level. It's a great CRM. Like for us, when you put in an inquiry on our website, like, it's going to send you a text message, and it's
mhm,
going to say, like ours says, that my sales guy's name's Casey, and I say, this is Casey from Clark Custom Homes. And we're getting more into like in-depth marketing right now, but we have a SPEAR. It's a SPEAR text. A SPEAR stands for short, personal, expecting a reply. Hey, this is Casey from Clark Custom Homes. Did you just move to the area? Or another, we toy with these a little bit. We'll try, like, hey, where are you wanting to build? Or do you have land already?
mhm.
So the only thing I care about, and I'm sorry, I'm getting off on a rabbit trail here.
All good.
The only thing I care about is if someone replies to my message. That's
Mhm,
all I care about. So they get an immediate text message and an email, and then and over the next 6 hours, they're going to get two more emails from me, and it's a hyperlink, and it's going to be like, and it's just me on video talking about our process. So that way, when they get to us, they're already sold. That way,
mhm,
when they come in, I'm not selling them our product. They've watched me for 10 hours on social media. They just got
mhm,
two videos that are 10 minutes long a piece. I mean, they've been talking to my sales guy.
mhm,
What I mean? So they're already sold before they even make it into our door.
mhm. So you're
I'm sorry.
warming them. No, that's perfect. It seems like you're warming up that lead and you're educating them on what your process is way before they even get it through the doors.
Right. So yeah, most custom home builders, they're driving down the road, like, they're like, "Hello, who's this again? Oh yeah, let
Mhm,
me take your name down on a piece of paper." And hey, I get it. I was there. I was doing it, driving 60 miles an hour down the road. Yeah. Oh, you want to build a house? Oh man, I'd love to meet with you. You know what I mean? And then they're not qualified. They don't have the money, or it's not their we call it an ICA, not their ideal client avatar.
mhm.
Right. And so that's one thing that we do, is we really spend a lot of time building out who is the ideal client. So usually I tell guys, hey, write down the last 10 clients you had. I want the top three. I want who do you want more of in
Yep.
the last 10? And then we'll start figuring out how to talk to them.
Mhm.
Sorry, there was another part to your question, and I forgot it because I was talking.
Oh, yeah, just a little bit more about that, the sales process and the marketing of actually, like, attracting, because you spoke about it a little bit in there, is that when you don't qualify and when you don't have those kind of CRMs in place, you do drive down the road and having those quick phone calls, and sometimes they come in, or maybe you even go to an estimate, and they're not qualified, and you're burning time, you're burning hours where you could be having more high leverage tasks, like you mentioned before.
Yeah. So it's a really great point that you brought up. Remodelers, remodel guys are they're uh, they're the work. Not It's not their fault. They just
Mhm.
don't know any better.
Yeah.
The way I was taught to remodel was, if somebody wants an estimate on a job, you drive to their house, you get all the subs out there, and then you give them a price and you hope they take it. That's how, but the same process that works for new homes works for remodels.
Mhm.
So they go through they get the text messages, they get the emails, they understand the pre-construction, and then the first conversation they have with a human is, what's your budget? or hey, I want to remodel my kitchen. Okay, cool. So typically our kitchen remodels are from $50,000 to $75,000. Is that within your budget? Same thing. I want to build a house. Okay, I want to build a 3,000 square foot house. Okay, so your budget is between 900 and 1.3 million. Does that make sense? So you start qualifying those people before you ever step foot on their land, before you get them in there for a meeting. You're just qualifying them, because if they can't afford it, there's no reason to even talk to them anymore. But
Yeah. Yeah.
I don't know. I know very, 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 very few custom home builders, remodelers, pool builders, guys in construction that actually do that. I just talked to a dirt guy earlier, and he was like, "Man, I got a call, about this. This guy wants a driveway." And I was like, "Cool. What's his budget?" "I don't know." "Well, what do you normally charge for a driveway?" He's like, "Well, I need to look at it." I was like, "Listen, you and I both know that's bullshit." I was like, I know that it's $25 a foot for a rock driveway, or you know what I mean. So like, you can give him an approximate number. Don't ever say a number. Say from this range to this range. Very
Range. Yep.
important. Very important distinction, because they'll get whatever number stuck in their mind.
Yeah.
But I see this so often. Guys don't pre-qualify, and they waste so much time, and they wonder why. They're like, "I don't know what my truck has 100,000 miles on it. And I don't know why I spent $10,000 in gas this month." So
Yeah, like you said, it's not their fault. And that's essentially what Smart Build System. That's what this channel is all about. Is really educating them on that and how they can save their time and really utilize their hours to be performing the high value task that's actually going to move their business forward,
Yeah.
or just give them a little bit of sanity as well. And like you said, the qualifying and asking them that range can qualify if the price, but sometimes it also gives you an opportunity to have a phone call with them, because they may be a crazy homeowner that you don't even want to work with, even if they do have the budget in place.
Oh, man, I don't know if you follow me on social media on Instagram or Facebook,
Yeah.
but I talk a lot about crazy homeowners. Because that's kind of that's part of our PCA, our pre-construction agreement, is like I call it a dating phase. I
Yeah.
get to know if you're crazy, maybe I'm crazy. Before we started doing this, if you wanted to build a house, I was going to build you a house. You know what I mean? And then it's funny, because I look back and think, I was like, man, that guy showed me signs that he was an a-hole. Like he was not a good person.
The red flags were there.
Red flags were there. But the reason guys return, they ignore it, is because they don't have enough leads. They have a scarcity mindset. They're like, well, if I don't take this lead, I don't know if another lead is ever going to come in again. I'm getting off on lead magnets and marketing, but
Mhm.
when we have, and I'll just go ahead and finish my thought, when we have really great marketing, when we have our social media out there, like saying, this is who we take, this is who we specialize in, this is what we do, you don't take as many of those BS phone calls. You don't get beat up by those clients anymore. And you have if you have a ton of people that you can kind of you can pick and choose. I always say, maybe this is a terrible analogy, but I always say it's like the good looking girl in high school. She's got all the options.
Yep.
If you ugly, you may got no options. Right now, you're ugly.
Mm-hmm.
So learn how to be beautiful. So
Mm-hmm.
being beautiful is lots of marketing, pay to play ads, those things. That's how you set yourself apart. So many custom home builders are like, well, man, my work just speaks for itself. And I said, nobody knows what they're looking at.
Yeah.
I can't walk into a house and be like, man, this house is well built. It just looks like drywall and paint to me. I would have to tear it down and be like, oh yeah, they used 2x6 walls or whatever. I don't know. Nobody knows just by looking at things. Does that make sense?
100%. 100%. And I'm curious of what do you put out there into the interweb, into the space, for your marketing that positions you in order to get quality leads?
Yeah. So this is really important. And I just got off a call before we were on a call. And I'm in a boardroom with 50 other custom home builders that are doing, 10 to 50 million, 100 million. Some guys are doing $100 million a year in business. We were talking about, Facebook, social media, Instagram. So there's, this is going to sound counterintuitive, but face-to-face person on camera talking about their company. So the trust level, first of all, is really, really low because we're right there with like used car salesmen, like contractors are, you know what I mean? So in order to attract high quality, well-paying clients is referrals, which I say referrals is not a business strategy. So then that becomes getting on social media, talking about your product, talking about your process, people getting to know who you are. And then they're like, oh, okay. So it's personal branding. A guy told me one time, he's a multi-million, probably billionaire, but he said, you either have to become famous or hire someone famous in your business. And I said, well, I'm out of money, so I guess it's just me.
Yeah, it's important to be the face of your company in regards to branding. But like you're saying, putting yourself out there, of showing your processes to gain that trust, because somebody can get a referral. For example, I was just talking to a homeowner who was referred to a custom home builder, and he went through the whole process. The house was built, and he would never refer him. He wouldn't refer him to anybody else because of that. And that's also really important when it comes to the reputation and trust. But if we back up just for a moment for the marketing piece, let's say they have a CRM, they have a pipeline, the leads are full, they're able to pick and choose. Can you kind of walk me through what you would believe a strong sales process should look like for a custom home builder in today's market?
Yeah. So like I said, just from a real high level out of the gate, qualify your leads, take them to a pre-construction agreement. So that pre-construction agreement, I was still everybody listen, guys. We are not trying to sell them a house. I'm only trying to sell them pre-construction.
Mhm.
So our pre-construction is architectural design, interior design, geological exploration, foundation and frame engineering. It's a permit ready. So you're trying to sell them a permit ready, buildable package.
Mhm.
And so that if you can qualify them and then take them through that PCA, take them through the pre-construction agreement with all those things, and they'll have these deliverables at the end. And then once interior design is done and once architecturals are done, then you put together, so they get at the very end of that, they get a itemized bid. And you say, I can build it for this. Now they have the option to go to whomever they want to. They can take it to ABC builders down the road if they say, I don't like you, you don't like me, we're just not a good fit. It rarely happens. But there's something powerful about putting down, I don't care if it's $1,000. I don't care if you put down $1.
Mm-hmm.
The amount of money is actually irrelevant. It doesn't matter. We just want to make sure we're not working for free. That's what I tell guys. Hey, the first thing we're gonna do is we're gonna stop working for free. They're like, what are you talking about? I work for free. And I was like, you work for free every day.
Mm-hmm.
I was like, how many bids have you put out and hadn't got them? Like, well, I did 10 last week and I didn't get any of them. And I'm like, that's called working for free. You know what I mean? So like and we toy with this, and we've toyed with this a lot. You know what I mean? We started out at $500. I mean, freaking people were like, yeah, $500, here you go. And they were signing it. We went to 1,000 and they were like, yeah, here you go. So we went to 1,500. And I was like, oh man, I was like, gosh, 15. I was like, 2,000. And I was like, you know what? Let's go to 15,000. Then I got three no's, boom, 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 15. They're like, no, 15,000 is too much. And I was like, oh, okay, well, maybe 15,000 is too much. Mm-hmm. So maybe we'll get on to 5,000, but you have to constantly test the market to see what is palatable for the market. You know what I mean? And so like we're like, hey, listen, it's $1,500 to save your spot. And then, the interior design is $5,000, you know what I mean? But the $1,500 you pay goes towards the interior design. You know what I mean? So you segment it up that way. It's not, like I said, we're constantly playing with it. So like what we're doing, we've segmented it, you know what I mean? But we want some money, down. I'm not trying to like break them. I just want them. I just want to know they're serious.
Yeah.
That's all. I just want to know that you got some skin in the game.
Yep.
You paid me, so I have a fiduciary responsibility to you to provide you a product. So I'm going to do better for you versus if if you don't pay me anything.
Yeah, setting up that qualifying barrier, because anybody who says, "Well, no, I'm not going to pay," you already know that that's not going to be a good fit, and crisis averted.
Yeah, yeah. They're the thing I tell guys is they were never going to buy from you anyway,
Mhm.
and they're like, "Well, I don't want to lose any leads." And I said, "It, yeah, so that's not you're thinking about this all wrong.
Mhm.
How many leads? How many have you done for free, and you've lost?" And they're like, "I don't know, 100." And I'm like, "Okay, well, what has just saved you? Let's say I took an hour to do this 100. It would save you 100 hours."
Mhm.
And a custom home builder, probably the CEO, the owner, is probably making $400 to $500 an hour. You know what I mean? So I was like, that's nuts. That's nuts to give away all that time for free.
Mhm. And to use your dating analogy as well, like you mentioned before, if you don't go through that process, you don't put them to the test, and you end up getting married for 4 to 6 months, maybe even a
Oh my
year,
gosh. Oh, yeah.
you're gonna lose all your hair by the end of the whole project.
There's a couple of customers that I think back to that I think about that I'm like, I called a really good buddy of mine and I was pretty salty about losing these three people. And he's like, because sometimes you just get beat up. I mean, just real talk. You just get whooped up on.
Yeah.
And I was like, are we freaking doing this wrong? And he's like, how much success have you had? Well, I was like, a lot. And he's like, well, you're doing fine then. And he's like, I know we're talking right now. He's like, you're the most successful guy I know. And I was like, well, just doubt creeps in. He's like, but think about this. He's like, think about the client that I won't name on this podcast, but they knew who they are. Shame on them for being such terrible people.
Yeah.
But he's like, think about that guy's face popping up every time. He's like, had you done a PCA with him? I mean, because that joker almost sued us because he didn't like his floors. And I was like, oh my gosh. I mean, I was like, he's like, you would have avoided. I mean, we spent $10,000 on attorney fees to keep from getting sued. You know what I mean? So it was just
The liabilities. My gosh.
yes. And I was like, it's insane. I mean, anyway, the PCA, it's the best tool for bids. I would never. I just give them out for free. And I'm like, it's a terrible idea. Stop doing it.
And for your own team, Cody, I'm interested because like in the EOS, there's the concept called followed by all, and it seems like when you approach your team with that, there was a little resistance. So I'm curious how if other builders are listening to this, how would you encourage them to kind of get their team to get on board with a new idea like that in their business?
Yeah, man, that's that's really hard.
Yeah,
That's
I'm hoping that you have the magic wand behind you that you can just
yeah.
wave.
I don't know that I don't know that I do. That what I feel like has worked well for me is I sit down. I'm like, okay, what do you not like about it? And they're like, well, I just don't feel like we can sell it. You know what I mean? And then we start going through like, okay, how much do you value something you pay nothing for? You know what I mean? They're like, okay, I don't value it all because I didn't pay anything for it. Okay, well then, yeah, kind of use it as proof and expertise that we need to charge for it. Well, how many bids did we do for free that we didn't get? Okay, well we did 10 that we didn't get. You know what I mean? So and I was like, well, let's just try it on one. You know what I mean? And so usually I tell guys, I was like, hey, just start at $500. I was like, you know what? I was like, and people will be like, okay, cool, yeah, $500. Where this all started, was I had a lady that was building in the city of Rockwall. Anyway, I was like, she was like, I don't know if there's sewer here or not. And I was like, I didn't want to do the job. I didn't want to be there. And I was like, you know what? I need $500 to go because I'm gonna have to spend a lot of time going to the city and do the whole crap. I want $500. She said, will you take my check? And I was like, no kidding. I was like, somebody freaking paid me. I was like, this is amazing. And so like it was literally because I would say, hey, listen, start on somebody you're like, I don't even want this job anyway. You know what I mean? I was like, start it with a barrier to entry feels really low when the risk feels low, just like I did.
Mhm.
And I was like, I just started out with $500, and then I was like, well, I should do that again. And I never, not one person said no to the $500, but I did have a couple of people that we went through the whole process, and they backed out of the builds, but I still made $500.
Mhm.
this is way, 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 way early on. But so that just kind of to give you the evolution of like where this started, or like how the brainchild came to be. You know what I mean? So anyway.
So at least to give it a try, but to start in a place where there's not as much stake, where like you're saying, if it's a high quality lead and it's somebody that you can see yourself working with, may not be the best one to test it with. But if you're
Yeah.
just starting, find somebody who, a job that you're not ready, you don't even want to take it all. Test it then.
Yeah.
And to continue to test it and to keep those numbers and say, well, what number did they actually agree upon? And maybe after the third one, we can raise it up a little bit. So there is that constant of reflection and testing there, which is great.
Yeah, Gary V says, test it till 10 people tell you no. I don't have that. I'm not that ballsy. I'll back off when 3 people tell me no. I'm like, yeah, maybe I was getting a little wild there. You know what I mean? Maybe I should, ease it on back. But yeah, Gary Vaynerchuk, he's like, don't test it once, test it 10 times till 10 people tell you no. And I was like, oh, so these aren't new ideas. Like I'm not like a genius or anything. I didn't come up with this stuff. I kind of stumbled upon it by accident, and then I was reading some books that are written by builders that are way smart. You know what I mean? Like Roger Glenhart, for example. He wrote the Lead, the Magnet, the Method, and he's like talking about charging for estimates. I was like, holy crap! I was like, somebody else does this too. I was like, no kidding. Okay.
Yeah, it's for the builders that are actually listening that may feel like they're buried in the day-to-day and they know business depends too much on them. In regards to, consulting, coaching, reading books, watching YouTube videos, would you recommend that builders can begin to educate themselves in some of the content that we've talked about today?
You say what content? Or you say
whether it's what content, what can they start doing to educate themselves based off of some of the things that we've discussed today?
Yeah, man, there's okay. The first book that I would highly, highly, highly recommend is The Lead, The Magnet, the Method, and the Machine. Sorry, it's sitting on my desk. I got 2 copies of it. So anyway, The Magnet, the Method, and the Machine.
Who's that by?
That is by Roger Glenhart. So, sold his business for $100 million. He's a custom home builder out of Raleigh, North Carolina. Super nice guy. We're actually going to I'll see him in September. But anyway, there's a couple other books like The Professional Builder, the Profitable Builder.
It's by Marty Amos.
Yeah, I don't want to get sued, so I'm not going to say too much about that. But good principles. I'm going to leave it at that because I don't want to get a cease and desist letter in the mail.
Sure.
I'll tell you off camera.
Yeah, sounds good.
But yeah, there's and like Dan Martell's book, Buy Back Your Time. It's a great book. And those are really specific to our business. I mean, the first book by Roderick, just an incredible book, really changed the way we do business. Traction. It's a great book. I mean, I don't know. I probably read 250 books a year. I mean, I read a lot of books. But I don't know. But there are some really good resources out there that can help you, grow your business, whether you need to hire a mentor or not, whether you need to hire a coach or not. I mean, I think that's invaluable personally, where I would say start by reading these books. And then that way, when you come to a mentor, come to a coach, come to a business coach, you have some like ideas and you're going to have better questions. You know what I mean? You're not starting from ground zero. You're like, hey, I read this in this book. Do you think this is BS? Or can you help me implement it? Because I always tell people, like, you don't need more information. You need more implementation. But most guys don't need more information. I don't know how many books I've given to guys over the years. And I was like, hey, you read the book? Yeah, I read it, but I just don't know if it's going to work, or I don't know. Man, I just don't have time for that. And I was like, okay, cool. So you need implementation. You need implementation is what you need. So you need a guy, you need somebody to help you, like start to put these processes and systems in place.
Yeah, absolutely. So to start not only just sharpening yourself and your own skills, but to take action. They say
Yeah.
knowledge is wisdom, but applied knowledge is really what's going to make the difference in your life.
Holy smokes, man. That is no joke.
Yeah. But
Applied knowledge.
yeah. So Cody, again, I want to thank you for taking the time to be here and to share your thoughts. I mean, this was great conversation. I think a lot of builders will walk away with a better understanding of what it takes to really grow with more clarity, more structure and intention. And overall, I really appreciate you joining me today.
Yeah, of course. Thanks for having me.
Absolutely. We'll talk to you soon.
All right. We'll see you. Thanks.
Yeah.